Welcome back. We're winging it. That's what we said. She doesn't know it, but we're going to leave that in.
Whoops.
So you guys enjoyed the last video so much, we decided to do it again. It's all about story time this time around. And like we did last time, we're swapping stories on each other's channels. So make sure you check out the description to check out her channel, check out my channel and her channel. And you know how it goes. So just switch back and forth.
Yeah.
So we're telling family stories, things that we remember as kids, because it's important to not only preserve your ancestor stories, but to preserve your own stories. So that's what we're doing here. What you got going on? What story?
This was so fun because I actually think this was kind of a theme of the conference.
Agreed.
You know, like Family Search has this new Together app. I talked about that on your story on my channel. Is really encouraging you to start telling your stories. And then, but we saw that story to also talk about that. And it made me think, because we had actually earlier in the week shared some of these stories. And I thought, this is important. I'm really bad at this. So now my story is going to be preserved on your channel until you take it down.
Or I'll give you a copy of it.
That works too. Anyway, okay. So my story, we were talking, just so that you know, we grew up a couple miles from one another. So we grew up but we didn't know each other. And we both grew up in Southern California, and we had some similar things. On my story, she talked a little bit about her adventures as a kid. And so now I want to tell you some of mine. My dad kind of took us through various things. And one of the different outdoor activities were very outdoorsy. And when I was little, I think I was 8 and my brother was 5. And maybe I was 10 because we had number 9 on our motorcycle. I can't remember. Anyway, my dad bought a Honda 50 and he brought it home. And to my mother's delight, taught us how to ride the Honda 50 in the backyard.
Your mom wasn't freaking out by this?
No, I think she probably was. But
maybe it was like, yay, they're out of the house.
I think actually there was some of that. But when we learned how to ride, you know, little kids, they're starting and stopping. And anyway, we had this figure 8. Our yard wasn't that big. It was a standard California backyard, which is bigger now, or is smaller. The yards now are smaller now, but so it's bigger. But anyway, we had enough room on a little Honda 50 to do a little circle and a little figure 8. So there's no grass on the circle and the figure 8. So I don't think my mom was too happy about that by the time we learned how to ride those motorcycles. Anyway, but that was the beginning of doing a lot of motorcycle riding and camping. And so anyway, my dad would take us out camping and he would wake us up at a ridiculous hour. You said 3:00 in your story, might have been 4 or 5 in mine. But my dad had a company car because he was a salesman. And so he had strict rules about eating in his car. And so he would wake us up and put us in the car, and then we'd fall back asleep in the back seat. But he would stop at Winchell's Donut House. Now, any of you out there from California, Winchell's was an institution. There's a couple of them left, but they're not quite as good as they were when I was a kid. I don't think. I haven't found any. I love donuts. But we were only allowed to eat plain cake donuts because the sprinkles would make a mess in his work car. So we would wake up, my dad would stop and get coffee. He loved their coffee, and we would get the donuts. And so we would wake up and we'd have our plain cake donuts. My brother and I, to this day, I think are the only people on the planet that like plain cake donuts. So anyway, and that's from those memories. So anyway, we'd drive out to the desert. We'd go out to the California desert. I can't remember if it was Mojave. I don't actually remember where we would go, but we would go out to the desert and then we would camp. And we had a little motorcycle trailer. We had 2 or 3 motorcycles at that point. And so it was a metal trailer with 3 tracks in it for the 3 motorcycles with a grate in between the 3 tracks. And so instead of even bothering with tents, my brother and I would sleep on the grates in between the 2, lines for the tires at the flat spot.
Keep you off the ground.
It kept us off the ground, away from the scorpions. And then my dad would just sleep in the car. It could not have been, and the snakes. It couldn't have been very comfortable for my dad. Anyway, but I remember laying in the desert where there weren't any lights, laying and falling to sleep on that trailer and just looking up at the stars and seeing so many stars.
California desert is awesome for stargazing at night. It's just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it was so pretty.
Yes.
So pretty. And then during the day, we'd go ride motorcycles. And we would do, we'd just learned to drive around, on our motorcycles and have a great time. We had so much fun. But, it's so funny because actually I'm not a big foodie. My poor husband loves food and cooking, and he actually doesn't like to cook. He just likes it when somebody that knows how to cook cooks. And he married me, which was a big mistake because I don't like to cook. I'm not good at it. And food for me is kind of a necessary evil. There's very few things that I get really excited about except for plain cake donuts. But the other things that I remember was our food, our break lunch, like our lunches while we were motorcycle riding, because I was with my dad. My parents were divorced, so there was no woman around. It was a guy. We were with my dad. And we would have salami, dry salami. I still like dry salami.
Me too.
Because of that. And then at night, a lot of times he'd barbecue a steak or something like that, which was like a really great treat. My dad could barbecue. So anyway, but we would ride motorcycles. We would have blast. It was just so much fun to hang out together. I just loved it. And then we'd spend the night, and then we'd drive home the next day, and we'd always stop at Love's Barbecue. Do you know that? Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
There was a Love's Barbecue. I think we'd always stop in Irvine, California. I can't remember for sure if that was in Irvine. It was on the way home from wherever we go, like off the 55 or 57 or something like that. There was a Love's Barbecue, and we get baby back ribs.
Ooh.
And it was so good. And it was just a fun, I think one of the things that I learned about that, and we have other family traditions too, about how important food is with some of our memories, because they become like part of that memory. It's like it's not just, anyway. So I really have a lot of food things that are associated with a lot of my memories. But we had so much fun riding those bikes. And then we did that for quite a while. And then my dad sold motorcycles, and then we all learned how to scuba dive. And then we all learned how to scuba dive. And then my dad ended up buying a used boat. So we'd always he'd have something, he'd sell it all. And with that money, he'd then use something else.
Trade hobbies.
And trade it. And so then we started doing scuba diving and going out on the boat. And those are other really fun memories. But
Now, were you doing ocean diving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was so fun. And I just my dad just gave us so many great memories by dragging us out at that ridiculous hour in the morning. And we'd beg him, Dad, we don't have to leave that early, do we? But we did it every time.
You probably did for scuba diving too.
Yeah, we did. We'd leave early for that. And so
I didn't know you were a diver. I was a diver at one time.
Well, but I haven't gone diving for probably 20 years. Yeah. I would need to do a refresher course before I would trust myself.
Don't even think I'd go anymore. But
I would go. I would actually like to go. I love to snorkel. I snorkeled not that long ago, and that was really fun. And I was actually really good at snorkeling because I would drive down to Laguna Beach. I'm just going on with my stories. Do you want to hear another one?
Yeah, sure.
I would drive down to Laguna Beach, and I didn't want to deal with it because the gear was so, we were doing it was so heavy. It's different now.
Especially in Laguna, you had to go down the big steps. Did you have to do the 100 step?
Yeah. Yeah. I would do that. And with a tank and a weight belt and all that junk, as women, you had to have heavier weight belts, and it was not any fun. So I would just take a lightweight belt and a BC and my fins and my snorkel, and I could hold my breath for a long time, and I could stay down for a while. And I did a lot more snorkeling than I actually did scuba diving.
So those who are not familiar with scuba diving in Southern California, it is cold water. So you have to wear a 3/4 inch suit.
Yeah.
And you have to suit up at the car to go down those 100 steps. I've done this trip. I remember. And by the time you get down to the beach, you're dropping your gear and running into the water because you're overheating. Did you do that?
True. Oh, yeah. Yep.
I remember.
Yep. And that's why I didn't want to take the tank and all that other junk. It was just like, I can snorkel. I don't want to get that deep anyway. So, because I like to swim through the kelp. A lot of people are freaked out by the seaweed in the kelp, and I actually would part it.
That's a beautiful place to go scuba diving. Yeah. I haven't been there in a long time. Did you ever get over to Catalina Island?
Yeah, we used to go there a lot, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, my dad, you're asking me more stories. You want to hear more?
Sure.
My dad, actually, because he was in sales, his company had a boat, and they would take clients out on it. It was a pretty big boat. And so he took whatever classes he needed in order to pilot that boat, legally with their insurance and all that junk. And he would take the boat over to Catalina every summer, and they would moor it in Catalina, and then clients would take the ferry over and stay on the boat. And then another guy in the company would take the boat home or vice versa. So almost every summer for a period of time, we would take the boat over to Catalina, and then we get a week on it.
Nice.
It was really fun. And so I did a lot.
Week?
Yeah. So I did a lot of Catalina time and a lot of snorkeling and diving in Catalina. Yeah.
I did my certification dive at Catalina.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah. Saw a shark.
Ooh, that's fun.
Remember the symbol for shark?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
so fun. Anyway, great memories. And I hope I hope my kids remember some of these stories that, because they don't know, my kids don't know me as a child. They know me as a mom.
Nowadays, they got GoPros you can take down underwater with
yeah.
you and all that. And so it's kind of hard to take pictures and have any of that kind of stuff documented.
Yeah.
Speaking of documentation, some of the stuff that we saw at Roots Tech was the storied books, where you can take some of these stories and put them into books and add the images and stuff, which was pretty cool. There's actually, there were several vendors there.
Oh, yeah.
Story, I think, was another one. With two eyes on the end of story.
Well, and there were some people that had children's books.
Yes.
And there was a lot of storytelling stuff going on.
Yeah. So by the time these videos come out, I don't know if the Roots Tech Expo Hall list would still be out or not.
I bet they'll be out.
Well, not the specials, but the list of all the vendors. I don't know if they would still be out or not.
I don't know.
No. Great stories.
Thank you. That's fun to share them with you.
Yeah.
It was so funny as we were in breakfast and telling these stories. There were so many similarities.
And I was like, wait a minute, we used to go motorcycle riding. Wait a minute, we used to go do that. Yeah, so it was fun. You grew up in Southern California, that's pretty much the three things you can do, or snow skiing.
Yeah.
Snow skiing, water skiing, scuba diving, taking advantage of the mountains and the beach and all that. Good to see you. It was fun having you around at Roots Tech.
It was so fun to see you again. I love hanging out with this woman. We have a blast.
Well, we're going to do it again soon. So thanks for watching. Make sure you check out her channel. And
it's got her story on it. Come over to my channel so you can see her story.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks.